Hi, my name's Paul Grogan and welcome to the first in a series of 2 videos where I'm going to be teaching you how to play Watch, designed by Daniel Newman and published by PD Verlag. In this first video, I'm going to be teaching 2 friends of mine how to play the game, and then in the second video, we're going to be playing through the game. So if you just want to know how to play the game, you just need to watch this first video. But after you've watched this, if you then want to see a game played out, you can watch the second video. To get to the second video, you can click the little eye in the corner at the end of this one, or I've put the link in the description. So let's get on with how to play the game. Right, welcome to Watch. This is a 1 to 4 player game that's set in the aftermath of World War II. We are all workers. We are working in a factory producing gears for watches. But it turns out that this factory used to be used in World War II as a munitions factory. And one of the things that we're doing while we're here is, because there's lots of corruption going on, we're trying to smuggle out some of those munitions to get points. So we're basically producing these gears. Sometimes we'll sell these gears for money, and sometimes we'll basically build a box filled with bullets, put a load of gears over the top, and try to smuggle them out. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be playing the game over 12 rounds. There is a player aid that you can have here, which has the 5 phases of the round included in there. And there is essentially a worker placement element to the game. So we each have a worker, and we have these action spots, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, divided across the 4 different sections of the factory. In each of the rounds, we're going to be choosing one of those actions, and we're going to be carrying out the action of that section. But there are a few clever parts to the game with regards to whether you choose to take the risky option and work in one of these risky sections, risky actions, or a non-risky action, because we're keeping an eye on each other. And we might be trying to report each other to the boss. Ooh. Okay? Which means you might get caught for doing things naughty, which means you then have to pay bribes, etc., etc. So there's all of that going on. Now, just so we've done the setup, we have these crates. I've lined them up here. We have crates divided into 3 colours, which basically shows these are the least value ones, 1, 2, 3. We've got 4, 5, 6 in the silver and 7, 8, 9 in the dark. The value on them, that is victory points. So every time you see a number in a star, that's victory points at the end of the game. And you're going to be basically using this action to smuggle out and get these crates, and that's going to be worth a lot of money. We have 9 stacks. In each stack, there is 1 more tile than the number of players. So we're a 3-player game today. So each of these stacks has 4 tiles in. We also have these gears, which are very nice metal gears. We have 1s, we have 5s, and we have 10s. Now, at the start of the game, let me just check how many each player starts with. 2. So everybody gets 2 gears at the start of the game. You're going to need to put these just below your player board so that we can see them. 1, 2. Okay, we've also got money, which is off camera, but at the start of the game, each player gets 3 rubles, which is the currency in the game. And then you can see we've got the player board, which has got 20 discs on it. The 20 discs on it are divided. We have 4 different rows. The 4 different rows on here correspond to the 4 sections of the player board. So we've got the loading dock, which is the top row. We have the workshop, which is the next row. We have the warehouse, which is the next row. And we have the foreman's office, which is the next row. Essentially, what you're going to be doing, every time you take an action in a section, you will get to remove the leftmost disc from that particular row, which is going to upgrade that action and make it better later on in the game. And if you remove the discs, these ones here have got victory points on. So that's victory points at the end of the game if you manage to remove that. Other thing, we're going to start with one card. These are document cards, but I'm going to show you what these are. There's 3 different types in there. I'll show you them before we start, but you're going to get one of those. Right, okay, so let's go through the phases of the round. Phase 1 is, and we will place a market card. These are the 12 market cards. This is the timer. So there's 12 rounds in the game, 1 for each market card. And we take the market card, and it always goes in that orientation there. So what we've got is we have that always pointing to this section, and the dark shaded corner always points to the workshop. So every market card that comes out will be placed in exactly the same orientation. Okay, so in the first round of the game, we need to decide a start player. It's supposed to be the one who looks most like a smuggler. I think we'll roll. So Arthur's going to be the start player. So what's going to happen is you will basically take your worker and you will put it onto any of the 8 spaces. Okay, so just as a demo, let's say you decide to go there. Paul, you will choose next. Let's say you decide to go there, and then let's say I decide to go here. Okay, that's phase 1. It's just placing workers. Phase 2 doesn't happen in the first round of the game. So I'm going to skip over phase 2 for now, and I'll let you know what happens when we go through round 2. So phase 3 is carrying out actions. We have a clock hand, which looks very much like a bullet. So the clock hand is currently pointing to 12. We go from there clockwise. So Arthur's going to get to resolve his action first, then you're going to get to resolve yours, then I'll get to resolve mine. The watch action is special. This always resolves, even if somebody doesn't go there. Okay? We'll go through the actions later on, but basically that's what happens in phase 3. In phase 4, the clock hand moves. We get a new market card. Right. So let's just zoom ahead to round 2. When you take your action, by the way, you lay your worker down. So in round 2, what's going to happen is now, from the clock hand clockwise, you're going to choose where to go. You can only choose an empty space. So you can't choose one that's occupied. You can't stay where we are. So let's say you decide to go here. Then it'll be me. I decide I'm going to go here. Then Arthur will decide to go here. Phase 2, we reveal the watch cards. Now you might be thinking, well, what watch cards? But you know, I said that the watch happens every round, even if nobody goes there. This number here shows how many watch cards are revealed. And if nobody goes there, what we do is we shuffle these cards. There is 1 for each of the sections. So if nobody went there and it was a 3, we basically shuffle them and we take 3 at random. They are the 3 sections which are being observed in the next round.
We don't know what they are.
You don't know what they are. Now, if I'd have gone there, I choose which 3 sections are being looked at. Okay, and I keep the cards in front of me. So if nobody goes there, it's decided randomly. If somebody goes there, they choose. So what now happens in phase 2 is you reveal the cards. If you were working in one of the light sections, you're fine, because that's not risky. But if you're working in one of the shaded sections, that's risky. If that card was chosen, then you have to pay a bribe. The bribe goes to the player who did the watch action on the previous turn. If nobody did it and the cards were there, the money goes to the bank. Okay, now the bribe that you have to pay is equal to, if you just look at your player board, you'll notice the numbers above the columns. And what you do is you look at the column in which you've removed the most discs from. So let's say I'd removed those discs. My bribe would be 3, because that is the rightmost column that doesn't have a disc in it. So in essence, you want to be upgrading the same row multiple times to make that action better, but by doing so, your bribe is more expensive. And as I say, if it was another player who chose those cards, that money would go to them.
Yep.
Now, if you're ever out of money, then you have to take a debt token. These are debt tokens. Whenever you take a debt token, you get 5 money. You can pay these back at any time for 8 money, or if you go here, you can pay one of them back for 5. If you've still got one at the end of the game, it's minus 10 points, which is pretty big. Okay. So that's what normally happens. So in round 1, you can go on a risky space. The foreman hasn't been alerted yet, so it's all safe. It's all fine. But from round 2 onwards, going on one of the risky spaces is literally risky because you might get caught. Now, if you get caught at the start of the game and your bribe is only 1 or 2 and you've got loads of money, you might not worry about that. Okay, so as long as you've got the money to pay the bribe, you're okay. We repeat the game for 12 times. Oh, at the end of each round, we get a new market card. I mentioned that. And then what happens at the end of the game, we only do the first 3 phases. So we don't bother turning the hand of the clock or a new market card in the last round of the game. And then we do final scoring. Now, final scoring is about this board here. Okay, there is an extra board included in the game. We will get this out at the end to tally our scores. But one of the things that you're going to score for at the end of the game is these majority tracks here. So I'll explain these briefly. And I've got to zoom in. Here we go. Right. We don't use these spaces, they are only used in a 4-player game. So ignore the spaces on the right-hand side. Right. Every time you move a disc to this board, you can choose any of the rows. Okay? You don't. It doesn't matter which row you choose. Well, it does matter, but you can choose any of them. You always go on the leftmost available space of the row that you choose. And if there's a bonus on there, you get that bonus immediately. At the end of the game, what we do is we look at each row for whoever's got the majority. So whoever has the most discs on this first row is going to score this number of points, 2, multiplied by the number of gears that they have left. Second place will be 1. So you're determining who's got majority by putting the discs in, but it's also determining how much your gears are worth at the end of the game, how much your rubles are worth at the end of the game, and your crates. So normally gears and rubles are not worth anything at the end of the game. Your crates will be worth points at the end of the game because they've got points printed on them. But this is majority scoring for that. And it's also second place. Now, if 2 players tie for the most number of discs, they both get the bigger amount and there's no second place. Okay? So we'll go through this a bit more later on, but you can see how you can get extra points. The one thing to mention is, you can see here it says max 60. This is a maximum of 60 points that you can get, not from each row, from each section. So, for example, if you decide to play a strategy of, I'm going to get lots and lots of gears, save them for the end of the game, and get loads of discs on these 2 rows, you might think, well, that's going to get me 1,000,000 points. The total number of points you can get for gears at the end of the game is 60.
Yeah.
The total number of points you can get for rubles at the end of the game is 60. Here, there aren't any limits. So this is majority scoring at the end of the game. The other thing at the end of the game that scores, that I will mention now, is your crates. I kind of mentioned that. They're worth the points printed on them. And your player board. So if you look at your player board, these 4 spaces here will be worth points if you have removed the disc from them. Now, if you've removed all of those discs, for example, that's actually 15 points at the end of the game. So it's 5 for that one, and another 10 for that one. So removing discs from rows 2 and 3, columns 4 and 5, is worth points at the end of the game. And the other thing that's worth points at the end of the game is these document cards. So I'm going to show these document cards on my camera now, because these document cards come in colours. So we have 4 different colours available. Oh, there we go. The top 4 cards were the 4 different colours available. If you have, at the end of the game, a full set of all 4 different colours, whether it's still in your hand or whether you've played it, 25 points. Okay? I believe it is 25 points if you've just got 1 set. If you've got 2 sets, it doesn't matter. It is 25 points if you've got all 4 cards, 4 colours. And that is whether they are still in your hand or whether you've played them. Once you've done the 25 points, you are then scoring for multiples of the same colour. Okay, and the points you get is, let me just double check this, 0, 5, 10, 20, 30, 40 or 50, depending on how many you've got. So 1 card of a colour is 0, 2 cards of a colour is 5, then 10, then 20, then 30, etc, etc.
Right.
So the worst case is you have 3 different colours at the end of the game, no points. Okay, you've got to have the 4th colour, he says, where's the 4th colour, to get the 25 points. Or you might decide to just go for
pinks
cards of 1 colour and get loads of points.
Yep.
Right. Speaking of the document cards, I'll explain these now. So you're going to get, there's 3 different types. Sounds like there's a cat joining us. There's 3 different types of cards in the game. And these are the 3 different types. So forget the colours at this point. We're now just looking at the text on them. We have one that moves one of your majority tokens on the majority tracks. One that's when caught, the bank pays the bribe. And we've got the when smuggling. Okay? So these cards, when you get them, they stay in your hand. When you play them and you just put them face up in front of you and you do what they say. It's a one-off card and it stays in play for end of game scoring and only for end of game scoring. So this one is quite easy. When you're caught doing something naughty, you can play that card, put it in front of you, and you don't pay the bribe. The bank pays it. Importantly, remember, the other player, the player who chose the watch action on the previous turn, they get the money. Yes. That's why it says the bank pays the bribe, not just you don't have to pay. Right. Smuggling, we're going to explain in a minute. but smuggling is one of the actions that you can do. Whenever you do the smuggling action, you may play this card to basically do some extra smuggling as shown on the bottom of the card. However, you are only allowed to do this smuggling if your player board has unlocked it. So if you look at your player board here, the top row is what type of smuggling you can do. At the start of the game, you can only smuggle out the light brown boxes. Once you've unlocked the first one, you can still only do the light brown boxes. Once you've done the second one, you can now smuggle out the silver boxes as well. Once you've done the third one, you can smuggle out both types of boxes. And the third type of action to explain is move one of your tokens on the majority track. So I'll just explain that quickly. Whenever you put a token on the majority track, I said you choose a row and then you go on the leftmost space of the row. Okay, so let's just pop a few tokens on here, right? Whenever you get the ability to move one of your tokens on the track, what you do is you pick it up from wherever it is and you move it to the next space, but you mark the previous space with a gear from the supply, just to show that it's marked. Now, the reason why you'd want to do that is to get the bonus. Because before I had a blue disc on that row, I still have a blue disc on the row, but what I've done is I have now got the bonus, okay? So when we do the majorities at the end, there is no benefit if you're furthest to the right. It is simply just to get the bonuses on there. So that's what that one does. You can also change the row. So this is actually better than I just said. This is move one of your majority tokens on the majority track. You can change row with this one. Ooh. There is another effect where you can't change the row, but with this card, you can change the row. So it's actually quite powerful.
Does that mean from here to here, or
yes.
is that from there to there? Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, you can go to any of the rows that are in there.
So you maintain your position, or you potentially contract back?
You go to the leftmost available space on that row,
right.
Whichever row you choose. I think that's the end of game scoring. It's actually summarised on here. So you've got your crates, you've got your player board, you've got your set collection, you've got your gears, your coins and your crates, which is all from here. And then you've got your debts. So as I mentioned, debt tokens at the end of the game, if you've still got one, it's minus 10 points. Okay, so I think we'll go through the actions now. And we'll go through the actions. We might as well start with this one, the smuggle action, which is one thing that you definitely want to be doing during the game. The iconography here is basically spend the gears to gain crates. Okay, so what you do is you look at your player board and you look in the smuggle action here, and at the start of the game all of us can spend one gear to smuggle out one light brown crate. You always take the most valuable crate of that colour. So at the start of the game we've got the 3s, you can take a 3. Once the 3s have gone, you take a 2. Once the 2s have gone, you take a 1. Okay, but what's going to happen is during the game you're going to upgrade this. So once you've upgraded that, it's now 1 gear to smuggle out 2 brown crates. That is 2 gears for a brown and a silver, 3 gears for 2 silver, 5 for a silver and a dark brown, and 7 for 2 dark brown. Now, what's important is you can choose any of the previous ones as well if you wanted to. So let's say I was to choose the smuggle action, but I only had 5 gears. I can choose that one, even though this one is unlocked and available to me. Okay, it's a great way of getting points. It's a big way of getting points, and you basically convert the gears into the crates.
Yep.
And yeah, the crates are the things that are filled with ammunition. You put in the gears on top to disguise them and ship them out. At the end of the game, everybody gets 1 free smuggle action. So just be aware of that. After the 12th round, before we do final scoring, everybody gets to do 1 smuggle action, and that is done in worker order clockwise from where the clock hand is. Okay. Any questions about the smuggle action?
Good.
Right. The next one, sell gears. Again, iconography is very clear. You sell as many gears as you want, and every gear you sell gets you money. But in addition to that, you can upgrade one of your crates. Now, the upgrade, you might think, is just to the next number. It's not. It's to the next colour. So, for example, if I had a brown crate, I can upgrade it to a silver crate. That means getting rid of potentially a 1 and getting a 6, if the 6s are still available. Okay, so it is upgrade a crate to the most valuable one available of the next colour in the sequence. Okay, now the market card is also a bonus. So as well as doing this, you also get whatever is shown here. Now I didn't mention that for the smuggle action because it doesn't apply to the smuggle action. And the clue is the colour of the background.
Okay.
So if the colour of the background matches, and I'll give you a clue, these three are always light and that one is always dark. So this never gives you anything extra. This always gives you something extra, which is there. Okay, overtime and produce gears. These two actions are very similar, so I'll explain them both at the same time. With both of these actions, you produce gears based on this row on your player board. So at the start of the game, it's 3, but you will unlock it, it'll be 4, 5 and 6. Once you've unlocked columns 4 and 5, it's still 6 as per column 3, but you're unlocking the end of game points as well. Okay? The difference is, if you do overtime, you get additional gears as shown here, which is 1, 2 or 3 I think. If you produce gears, you get to do this action, which is the moving a disc on here, but this time it's the same row. Mm-hmm. So this time it's, as I mentioned, is moving a disc on the same row. So that's these two actions. In the warehouse, scrounge is you gain gears and money based on however much you've unlocked from your warehouse row. And upgrade is where you can spend money to remove one of your discs from your board. So what you do is you choose a row, you remove the leftmost disc from that row, and you pay money at the top of that column. You remove the disc and you put it straight on here. So that's what that action does. Right, now we get into the clever actions. Search files. This is draw a certain number of cards from this deck and keep a certain number of cards from this deck. And that is based on this bottom row here. So at the start of the game, it's draw 3, keep 1, put the other 2 back on the bottom of the deck. Then it's draw 4, choose 1, then it's draw 5, choose 1, etc, etc. So right at the end, it's draw 6, keep 3. The cards that you put on the bottom of the deck are supposed to be shuffled and put back on a random order. So you're not choosing what order to put them on the bottom under. No limit to how many cards you can have in your hand. Finally, the watch action. And as I mentioned, if the watch action is not chosen, it happens anyway. But with the watch action, you get to take the watch cards, all 4 of them. You get to choose that many of them. And they are the areas which are basically under surveillance for next round. There is one rule that I did forget to mention when I was doing the teach, and we did also forget to do this in the playthrough which followed, is that whenever you take the watch action, you can actually peek at the next market card to help influence your choice on which areas you want to watch for the next round. You also may pay 5 money to pay off 1 debt, and you take this token. Now at the start of the game, that token is on the board, but as soon as one player has done the watch action, they take the black token, put it on their player board. From now on, if they are caught, the bank pays their debts. Their bribes.
Until the end of the game?
Nope, until somebody else goes there,
okay.
and then they take it off them.
Okay.
But yeah, it doesn't go back here at the end of the round.
Right.
Once it's been taken from there, that player keeps it until somebody else has used that.
Yep.
Okay? Right, they are the different actions. However, just to remind you, and I think I said this earlier on, after you've done your action, you also get to upgrade that row depending on where the section is. So for example, if Arthur, you're doing overtime, right now you would get 4 gears. You'd get 3 because of that and 1 because of that. And then you would remove that disc and you'd put it over there. So you're going to get to do 12 upgrades during the course of the game. You can do more if you choose that action. But every single time you take an action, it upgrades the appropriate row of your player board. Right, what else do we have to say? I think that might be all the rules. Have you got any questions about anything so far?
No, that's good.
No, that sounds very clear.
Yeah, very
There we
good.
go. So, we're going to give these cards a shuffle. Everybody gets 1. Remember, 3 different types of cards, 4 different colours of cards. And yeah, so that's the end of the teaching part of the game. Okay, so now you know how to play the game. It's time to go and watch a playthrough if you want to see how a game actually plays out. As I mentioned at the start, click on the little eye in the corner to get to the second video, or there'll be a link in the show notes. Thank you very much to PD Verlag for asking me to create this video, and a big thank you to all of my Patreon supporters whose financial support I rely on to help fund the channel. If you found this video useful and you want to support the channel directly, you can do so at patreon.com/gamingrules. Until next time, take care and thanks for watching.